Hi guys, it's Izzy, and yes, we are working in like high definition. Look at us go. This is my new camera that I got for my birthday. I turned 21, so I'm officially old and wise. But I got a new camera for my birthday, which is super exciting, and that's what we're filming on today. I haven't like worked out all the settings completely, so I hope this is good quality and I hope the angle's okay and everything. But yeah, it's super exciting. I feel very bougie having my own camera, like I was filming on my phone before. So exciting times. You can see me in better quality, just what everyone wanted. But in today's video, it's my favourite time of year. By the time this goes up, it's Pride Month. And as your resident recommender, because I read a lot of queer books, I'm gonna tell you all the books that you should read this month and through all the months because they're all great. And I've got pretty much every identity covered here for the most part. I've got some books that you'll have heard me talk about before just because they're great and I love them, and some new books that I've read more recently and some underrated books. And yeah, we've got a lot of different genres, a lot of different identities, and I hope you get some good recommendations from this and some of them sound interesting to you. I want to emphasize that these are books that I would recommend you reading anyway, just because they're incredible books, but obviously they're incredible books and they're queer, so it's just like best of both worlds. But like these are books that I truly enjoyed, even if they didn't have queer rep, so you should just read them anyway. But obviously I wanted to collate the best list possible. I do have quite a lot of female romances in this list just because I know that they are recommended less, so I just wanted to make sure to get them into this list. The first book I'm going to recommend, one of my more recent favourites, is Dangerous Remedy by Kat Dunn. This is, I believe, currently only available in ebook version, but I do believe there is going to be a physical release in the next couple of months, which I think was pushed back because of coronavirus. So it is available now. I read the arc of it, but the ebook is now available. And if you're not reading it, you are missing out. This follows characters living during the French Revolution in the, is it the 1700s? I'm not very good at history, I'm pretty sure it's the 1700s. It's the French Revolution, whenever that happened. And we follow 4 characters who try and get people out of jail. Doesn't matter which side they're on, basically. If their families or friends or whatever pay them to get them out of prison, they'll jailbreak them. And one day they are paid to do a job to jailbreak this girl, and when they find her, they realise that she is a lot more valuable than they once realised, and that she has the capability of changing the outcome of the revolution and kind of changing the tide of who's winning due to fantasy reasons. And it's just such a cool book. It's got a great group of characters, a really thrilling plot line. It's so interesting, the historical setting is so rich. It's just an absolutely incredible book. There's a main sapphic romance between 2 girls in the group, and there's a gay male character in the group as well. So it's pretty queer as a book. It's absolutely worth a read. I love it so much and it's just so good. Just read it. I promise you won't be disappointed. The next book is also a recent favourite, and that is The Last True Poets of the Sea by Julia Drake. This is a book I read with the Sapphic Book Club and we all like absolutely loved it, and I will leave the details for that book club down below if you want to check it out. And this is a book that follows our main character Violet, and she has had to leave her house for the summer. She lives in New York usually, but she has to go and live in Maine with her uncle, I think it is, due to the fact that her brother recently attempted suicide and is in a rehab centre, and she was on a kind of path of drink and I don't think drugs, but like drink and partying, and so her parents were trying to also get her help. And it basically follows her summer in Maine, struggling with her familial relationships and dealing with the guilt of her actions and the consequences of her actions, and trying to rebuild a relationship with her brother while also meeting new friends and love interests in Maine. And yeah, it's just an absolutely beautiful story of grief and mental illness and family and friendship, and it's just stunning. And I felt so seen by it in terms of my mental health representation. Like, there were so many lines that I just connected with so much. And Violet is bi, and I believe the love interest is bi. I'm pretty sure she is, but it's not like stated specifically. But Violet is definitely bi, and yeah, it's a great sapphic romance, and it's just an absolutely stunning book and really underrated. The next book I'm going to recommend, also a favourite of the year, is The House in the Cerulean Sea by G.J. Clune. This is a adult book, but I think it really is accessible for all ages. It follows our main character Linus, who lives in a world he lives on Earth, but it's an Earth that has magical creatures, and he works as like basically a social worker, but for the like magical kids. And he has to go and stay at this kind of orphanage. Is it an orphanage? Not really. Where there's 6 kids and a man who looks after them, and one of them's the Antichrist, one of them is like a green blob thing who wants to be a bellhop, one of them's a gnome. It's just a ragtag family who love each other and want to work through their trauma and find love and happiness in their lives. And the main character Linus is gay, and there is a male-male romance. That's not the main theme. It's mainly about kind of like outcasts and misfits and what it means to fit in and what it means to have a family and what it means to love someone for who they are. And it's just an absolutely beautiful, heartwarming book, and it's such a comforting and calming read where you just feel so like connected to all the characters, and it's just so transportive. Like, I just didn't want to do anything but listen to the audiobook because it was just so immersive, and I just thought it was brilliant. Another favourite of mine of late is Music from Another World by Robin Talley. Now, every book Robin Talley has written, I believe, is sapphic, but this is the first one I've given 5 stars from her. I just absolutely loved it. It follows 2 girls in the 70s. Is it the 70s? Yeah, I believe it's the 70s, who become pen pals by their school, and they have a pen pal relationship and eventually a really strong friendship. And then one day one of the girls is kicked out of her home due to being outed to her family, and she kind of has to leave home, and she goes to her pen pal's house in San Francisco, and she lives with her for a while because she doesn't really have anywhere else to go, even though they'd never met in real life. And we kind of follow their letters and diary format, which is really cool. And it's basically about them finding a community in San Francisco, a community in music, and a community in the queer community of San Francisco. They also join like a women's bookshop, which is so cool. And the main character who is out, like, there's 2 main characters, the 2 main girls, and the one that was outed is like she classifies herself as a lesbian, but the other girl is like a questioning bisexual. So there's an incredible sapphic romance. It's so good. The pining, the yearning, the best friends to lovers, the angst. It was just chef's kiss. It was so good, and also it was just a really cool setting, and I really enjoyed learning about the 70s and kind of the queer culture during the 70s. I just thought it was really interesting, but the book was just beautiful and I loved it so much. The next book I'm going to recommend, actually kind of two books, are George and Rick by Alex Gino. George is a book about a girl who was born male at birth but identifies as a girl, and she is, I think they're in middle school, I believe. I can't remember, I read it a little while ago, and it follows her journey as she tries to kind of start explaining herself to the world and her family, and she comes out to her best friend, and her best friend is just incredible, and I loved their relationship so much. And yeah, it just kind of follows this girl as she kind of figures out who she is and tries to live her life as she wants to. And it is own voices. I believe Alex Gino is trans. And then Rick is their newer book, and it follows again someone around middle school age. I think he's maybe 12, I want to say. I can't quite remember, but basically it's a short book that kind of follows Rick as he joins the like LGBTQ club at his school and starts questioning his sexuality and is thinking that he may be asexual or like on that spectrum. And it's just a really sweet book about him finding an identity and a community, and I just really love both of them. I do prefer George, but Rick was really lovely too. And if you're looking for some ace representation or just like kind of questioning representation, then that's a really good book to pick up. And they're both middle grade, so you know, a change in age range, so that's cool. The next one is a relatively new one and an absolutely brilliant book that is just like pure art, and that is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I think Elizabeth Acevedo is a genius, and she has just created another incredible book. It's a book written in verse, and it follows two girls whose father dies in a plane crash, but they didn't know about each other. One girl lives in America and the other in the Dominican Republic, and they find out about each other through their father's death, and we follow their relationship, their grief, their differing upbringings, and kind of we look at how sexism is different between the two countries and the opportunities and the treatment of both girls. And yeah, it follows these two girls, and it's a beautiful book about the power of sisterhood and women and grief, and it's just absolutely stunning. And there is a sapphic romance in it. It's not like a strong part of the story, it's not like a major part of the story, but it's there and it's not really questioned, and there's no real homophobia or anything like that. It's just one of the sisters has a girlfriend, and like that's it. Like we see her with her girlfriend, and it was just really nice to see. Like the next book I'm going to talk about is a series, and that is Magnus Chase by Rick Riordan. He's written a lot of amazing books which all have a lot of diversity, but I specifically wanted to mention the Magnus Chase series. They don't come in until book 2, and then they're in book 2 and 3, but that is the character of Alex. Alex is a daughter of Loki, and she is gender fluid. I believe her default pronouns are she, her, and then she states if on days she wants to change her pronouns to he, him. and I wanted to recommend this for gender fluid representation. It's a series I absolutely adore anyway. Again, it's sort of middle grade or like young adult, and I just think Alex is such a cool character and I love them so much. And yeah, I really enjoyed seeing the gender fluid representation in that. It's not something you see often, so I definitely wanted to recommend it if you're looking for that kind of rep. I'm then going to recommend the duology We Set the Dark on Fire by Taylor K. Mejio. Both books are out. It's a finished duology. It's set in a world where women are trained up to be wives for men, so you either train as a segunda or a primera. A primera is like someone who kind of runs the house and is part of the like business and work, and then the segunda is more of a traditional wife role. And we follow two characters, Carmen and Danny, as they enter a household of this man Mateo, and they kind of hated each other before in the school that they were trained in, but they kind of find this allyship with each other because they hate Mateo, and it turns into friendship, and it turns into more than friendship, and there's a rebellion plotline, and it's just an incredible duology, which is definitely underhyped, and you should definitely check it out. It's got incredible female romance, like just the tropes, just we were blessed. All the characters are Latinx. It's a great book and it's a great romance. What more could you want? I'm then going to recommend The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is definitely not an unknown book, but it's one I've had on my TBR for like 3 years and I only got around to reading it this year. And so this is kind of to anyone who hasn't read it and has been putting it off. Read it. Read it this Pride Month. It's beautiful. The Song of Achilles is a retelling of the myth of Achilles and Patroclus, and it follows Achilles and Patroclus and is narrated by Patroclus, and it follows them growing up together and Achilles obviously being the legend that he is and being, you know, like the strongest and just, you know, so revered, and Patroclus kind of being in the background supporting Achilles in whatever he does, and it follows their relationship as it turns into more than friendship, and then it follows the difficulties and the grief that happens during the Trojan War, and it's just an absolutely stunning book that follows their relationship and a lot of Greek myth and mythology, obviously, and it's just absolutely stunning. And Madeline Miller did such a brilliant job at creating characters so dimensional and so vivid, and I just think she's such a talented writer. And again, I'm not sure it's really stated what their sexuality is. I think they're both bi, but I'm not 100% sure. Then there's Criers Wall by Nina Valera. This is a fantasy book that follows our two main characters, Crier and Ayla. Ayla, is it? I think it's Ayla. Sorry if we changed angle or lighting slightly or anything. I had to switch SD cards, so that's why it may have moved slightly. But what was I even saying? I don't even know which book I was talking about. Oh, Criers Wall. Yes. So Ayla and Crier is a automaton, I can't remember the name for it, but she's basically like a human robot thing, and the human robot things basically rule over this kingdom, and they kind of rule over the humans, and Ayla is a human and she wants to kill Crier in revenge, and so they kind of start off as enemies and then realise maybe they could work together, and it's sort of an enemies to lovers situation. It's a really cool plot, it's a really cool idea, it's a great fantasy series, and it's going to be a duology, and the second book is coming out in September, I think, so that's really exciting, and it's just a fantastic book with a great sapphic romance, so read it. Then I'm going to talk about a book that I feel a little bit iffy about. That is Birthday by Meredith Russo. I think this was an incredible book, and it is Own Voices, as Meredith Russo is trans and it follows a trans main character, but there is some controversy around Meredith Russo as an author, but if you are looking for really good trans rep in a book, then maybe borrow it from your library or something rather than purchasing the book if you don't feel comfortable supporting her as an author. It's up to you to do your own research and figure out if you're comfortable with that, but I do think Birthday is an absolutely beautiful book that explores trans issues really well. Obviously, I'm not trans, so I can't speak to the representation, but it is Own Voices, and I know a lot of people love it, and it basically follows two characters, and they have the same birthday and they're best friends, and it follows their birthdays from like 10 to 18, I want to say, around like something like that. And so we just see where their lives are at every birthday, see kind of whether they're growing closer or drifted apart, kind of where they are with their family situations. And one of the characters is living in a male body but identifies as a girl, and we follow her with her struggle, how to deal with that, and she's lost her mother and lives with her father, and it's kind of just exploring family, friendship, love, grief, mental health. I think it was stunning. I think it was just a masterpiece, and it makes me really sad that the author may not be that great, but it's up to you if you want a book with a trans rep that does have a happy ending. It is quite a difficult, triggering book, so do make sure you check the trigger warnings before reading it. But it does. I don't think this should be a spoiler because I always want to know, but like they do, it does have a happy ending. So yeah, it's a beautiful book. If you're looking for more trans rep, maybe check it out. It is Own Voices, and yeah, I think it was a stunning book. Another book I'm going to recommend that I didn't actually love, but it's Spell Hacker by MK. What is their last name? I can't remember their last name. I'll put it on the screen. And it's a sci-fi book that follows a group of characters, and they discover a new substance, like a new sci-fi substance, and they are basically being hunted down for the fact that they've discovered this, and they kind of discover this whole like conspiracy plot, and it's a super fun like sci-fi adventure. It just wasn't anything special for me, but I did want to mention it because it has non-binary rep in it, which obviously we don't see enough of, and I wanted to mention this book because it is an ensemble cast, and while one character narrates it, it is like about these four characters, and one of them is non-binary and also chronically ill. Chronically ill in a sci-fi way, but still it's great rep, I think. And I can't speak to the non-binary rep if it's good because I'm not non-binary, but I've heard good things and I've read reviews from non-binary people, and from what I can tell it was pretty good representation. So if you're a fan of sci-fi, it's a really fun book, and if you were looking to read a book with some non-binary rep that's actually not just like a minor side character, then this is definitely a good book to go for. It just wasn't one I like absolutely adored. Another book with great rep is Tarnished Are the Stars by Rosie Thor. This is another sci-fi book that it's just a standalone, as is Spell Hacker. I don't know if I said that, but Spell Hacker is a standalone, as is Tarnished Are the Stars, and I call it the Gay Lunar Chronicles because it definitely gives Major Lunar Chronicles vibes. To be honest, it's kind of a weird summary, but it basically follows 3 characters who are trying to figure out what is happening. There's this disease that is affecting the people of this like kingdom, and the king, not the king, he's like the kind of like the prime minister or like the president of this place, is being shady, and these 3 characters come together to try and figure out what's going on. And there's 2 girls and a boy, and both the girls are sapphic, they're in a sapphic romance, and the boy is ace and aromantic, I believe. Definitely asexual, and I'm pretty sure on the aromantic, but I will double check and put it on the screen if it's not correct, but I'm 99% sure he's aromantic. And it's just a really super fun adventure sci-fi book with some conspiracies and some plot twists, and it's just a really fun time, and I really loved the book, and I thought the rep was great, and I really loved the characters. So you're getting a lot of rep for your money there. You've got 2 queer girls and an ace arrow male character, so like what more could you want? And then gonna recommend Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzalez. This is a super fun contemporary about 2 boys. It's a queer retelling of Greece, and it's about 2 boys who have this summer romance, and it's this whirlwind thing, and one of the boys believes he's going home at the end of the summer, but they actually end up staying where they were on holiday because his aunt is sick with cancer and they want to be there to support the family. So he changes school for his senior year, goes to school, and lo and behold, there is his summer romance, and he is not out. And the main character is gay and the love interest is bi, and it's this really funny, really relatable, really current young adult rom-com with some deeper themes, with the themes of family and grief, but also really lovely light moments and pining and angst, and it's just a really, really good book. It's funny, it's deep, it's got great characters, it's just perfect, and if you're a fan of Greece, you're absolutely gonna love it. It's so good. And there is a sapphic side character, but it's not like a big part of the story, but it is there, so that's always a bonus. And then I'm going to talk about Ramona Blue by Julie Murphy. This is a book that was a surprise to me. I really actually ended up enjoying it. It's an oldie but a goodie. It's a book about our main character Ramona Blue, who at the start of the book identifies as a lesbian, but then one of her childhood best friends comes into town and she starts to realise that maybe she has feelings for him, and she kind of spends the book questioning her sexuality, what it means to identify as these different labels, and whether she likes this boy, just this one boy, or whether she likes more boys. And it's just a really great book about questioning your sexuality and changing your labels and how difficult it is to do that. And also Ramona is living in a trailer park with her family and they're having a lot of money struggles, so it kind of follows her having to juggle the money struggles in school, and her sister ends up being pregnant, and yeah, it just follows a lot of different themes, and it's one of the only books I've read kind of with a strong theme of questioning your sexuality and trying to find your label without it being, it's not in any way tragic or really upsetting. There's not really any like strong homophobia or anything like that. It's just a girl figuring out her identity and juggling school and family and friends and where she wants to go for college, university, and I just think it was a really lovely book. The characterization was so strong. I really loved the side characters. Most of the side characters are queer. It's like a very queer cast, and I just think it was a really, really strong book. And then I'm going to briefly recommend two of my favourite books. The first one being The Starless Sea, which is my favourite book of all time by Erin Morgenstern. It's unexplainable because it's just so incredible. It's a fantasy book that follows this boy. I think it's an adult book, so he's in like university, in like his last year of college or something, and he finds a book in his college library and he reads it and he loves it, and he tries to find more by the author, and he kind of tries to look for this book and he can't find proof of its existence anywhere, and he ends up going through this magical door to this magical world called the Starless Sea, and it's just a work of art. It's a masterpiece. It's pure genius. It's just incredible, and it's also gay. There's a male-male romance in it, and the main character identifies as gay, and it's just one of the best books. It is the best book. Everybody needs to read it, and it's gay. Like, I don't know how hard I can sell this book to make everyone read it. Like, I just need everyone to read it. If you want to hear my really rambling thoughts, you can check out my Best Books of 2019 video, where I talked about it a lot. And my other favourite series is The Diviners, which again, Izzy, we know, shut up about it. But The Diviners is a fantasy historical fiction novel that takes place in New York in the 1920s and follows a group of teenagers who have magical powers. They're called the Diviners, and they are trying to take down evil, basically, this demon evil thing. It's incredible. It's a completed 4-book series. It's just, I can't tell you how great it is. And again, watch literally any of my other videos and you'll see me raving about it for ages, because it's my favourite series ever. And it has a gay male character and a ace lesbian character. Their romance isn't a main part of it, but their kind of identity definitely is, and I thought it was really, really strong rep. And Ling, who is the ace lesbian, is also disabled and Asian, and she's just my like favorite character of all time. I love her so much, and yeah, I mean, read The Diviners anyway, but also it's gay, so you can read it in June for Pride Month. You're welcome. I'm going to recommend two more books. The first one being The Midnight Lie by Marie Rutowski. I think that's how you say it. And this is a fantasy novel about a girl who lives in kind of the poor part of the kingdom, and one day she gets arrested and she is put in jail, and she meets this other person in jail, and they kind of hit it off, and the girl she meets in jail is allowed into like the rich parts of the city, and so she kind of takes Nirim, our main character, and Sid, the love interest, kind of go on this mission into the rich part of this world to try and find evidence of magic, and along the way they find a deeper, darker side to this world and kind of uncover something that could change their world forever. But when I say the sapphic pining was just unparalleled, it was so good. I can't tell you. Read it just for the romance. Like, it's so good. It's so good. And the final thing I'm going to recommend, I feel like this is a very popular one, but it just can't be recommended enough in my opinion, and that's Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. It's a graphic novel series that follows two boys in high school, Nick and Charlie, as they are sat next together in a class and become best friends and then something more, and is the purest relationship in all of history. Nick identifies as bisexual and Charlie as gay, but there's a whole ton of queer side characters, including a sapphic couple, Tara and Darcy. I believe they're both lesbians, but I'm not 100% sure. And it also has a trans character, Elle, and she also has a romantic relationship. It's just really fun to see so many queer characters just being friends and loving each other and having a community and just having these great friends. And you just need to read it, okay? You won't, I promise you, it's the best thing you're ever going to read because it's the purest thing ever. Then just a couple of honourable mentions because this video is too long and I've really talked about every amazing queer book, but there's always more. Some of these I've mentioned in previous recommendation videos, so I'll leave them linked in the information thing. So if you want to know more about these books, you can check them out. But just in case you want some more books to look into, Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett has a sapphic romance blossoming. Labyrinth Lost by Zoraida Cordova also has sapphic characters and a great best friends to lovers romance. Soulkill Girls by Claire Legrand, an amazing fantasy horror book that has beautiful sapphic romance in it and just is such a beautiful book. The author Ashley Herring Blake, I didn't include her in this because I talk about her all the time. All 4 books of hers are queer. She has 2 middle grade books and 2 young adult books, all with girls who like girls. Some are bi, some are lesbians, and all her books I have given 5 stars. She's just incredible. Like I said, I've talked about her in a lot of my other videos, so I don't want to talk about her again. I'll leave the ones where I've mentioned her in the information card. Love is for Losers, which hasn't come out yet, I don't think, because the release date was pushed back. Amazing sapphic romance, loved it so much. Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno, another great sapphic romance. Radio Silence by Alice Oseman, as well as I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. A great, I Was Born for This has loads of bi characters. It has a trans gay male. It has the 2 main characters are a trans gay male and a bisexual girl. And in Radio Silence, the 2 main characters are a bisexual girl and a demisexual gay male. Both incredible books, love them so much. We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson, a gay book that looks at mental health. Girls of Paper and Fire, a book I talk about all the time, an amazing fantasy series with great sapphic romance. The Raven Cycle by Meg Stiefvater, again I talk about it all the time, but that has a great bisexual main character and gay main character who have a romance. Basically all of Rick Riordan's books have queer characters in them. He's a really great diverse author. And yeah, those are all my honourable mentions. I just have an unending list of queer books to recommend, so I love making these videos, but I hope this was kind of a comprehensive guide to what you should read during Pride Month. I tried to cover as many identities as possible. I may have missed 1 or 2 out, but I tried my best to include something for everyone, different range of genres, different age ranges, different identities, and yeah, I really hope some of these books sound interesting to you and that you give them a go because they're all so great and I think you'll love at least one of these. And I just want to wish everyone a happy Pride Month. I know that Pride events are not really running at the moment, but I still hope you are able to connect with the community and read a lot of queer books. I will leave a couple of links down in the description bar of things like Pride book tours, Pride bookish events, there's a Sapphic newsletter, all that kind of stuff. I will link some resources down below if you want to get a little bit more involved in Pride Month and show your support and just be more involved. Thank you so much for watching. Follow me on Twitter, Goodreads and Instagram. I have a Bookstagram. I would love to see you in all of those places. Thank you so much for 600 subscribers. I am so grateful. I just can't believe I've reached 600 subscribers. That's so wild. And yeah, hopefully I'll be getting into filming a bit more regularly now. I'm a little bit better. I did dislocate my shoulder yesterday, which is why I haven't been holding up any books, even though I own most of these, because my shoulder's just not having it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Sorry if this was a little bit messy. I had to change SD cards and I haven't filmed in a while, and so it was a little bit all over the place, but I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will be having my birthday book haul coming soon, as well as a kind of best and worst of the books I read in April and May, because I read so many books in April and May but wasn't able to film a wrap up, so I'm going to just kind of talk about the ones I loved and the ones I hated, so I don't put too much pressure on myself to film them both separately because they'll both be quite long. So yes, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day and a wonderful Pride Month, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!